Hello, my name's James O'Brien. I'm the Operations Director of iIntro. What I'd like to share with you today is how you can start to position yourselves differently in the eye of a prospect. You see, when you phone up a prospect and say that you're a recruiter, they immediately switch off. And the challenge we have is we've got to get across that divide and actually position ourselves effectively as a management consultant. And we've got to think like a professional services organisation. So what you need to do is you've got to be different. You can't just ask the same old questions that every recruiter asks. And what are those questions that recruiters ask? Tell me, you're looking for anybody? What type of person are you looking for? How much experience do they need? What type of companies should they have worked for in the past? You see, that's just taking a briefing in about 2 or 3 minutes from an employer, taking the job spec and disappearing and going to search a database. It's a transactional process. So what you have to do is you have to show your potential client, your prospect, that you care about what it is they're trying to do. So you've got to ask them some more in-depth questions. You've got to ask them, why has the vacancy become available? Now, you might think, well, I as a recruiter would ask that question, but you've actually got to mean it, and you've actually got to probe a little bit further. There's no easy way to do this, but when you find out why the vacancy has become available, then you can start to find out, well, is it because you're expanding? Is it because somebody's retired? Is it because somebody's left? They've left. Why did they leave? Did you do an exit interview with that particular candidate? How long have they been with you, and so on? Now, that's going to start to give you extra information that you don't necessarily have. You see, if the person has left, and they left within a year, why did they leave so quickly? Again, think about it for a moment. When they were hired less than a year ago, presumably they fitted the job specification. They had X years experience, worked for this type of company, and had this type of qualification or experience. So from that side of things, again, you can start to probe a little bit deeper. You can then start to the client, in terms of, not only, why has the vacancy become available, well, what will this vacancy look like in the future? What will it look like in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 24 months' time? No, I might say exactly the same, but this is start to look at how do you want this role to develop in the organisation? Does it require a person with different skills? Is it looking for somebody on the upward slope of their career, or are you looking for somebody who's going to be a steady performer, just doing the job? It's going to start to give you extra information. Perhaps you could ask the client, if I could wave a magic wand and find you a candidate that fitted the bill perfectly and brought something else to the table that would transform your business, what would that something else be? Again, you can start to ask questions, and what you're doing is you're getting the client thinking. But more importantly than that, you're engaging the client. They're now this conversation is starting to stretch out positively. So you're starting to ask more questions. Think about this one as well. This next question you could ask them is, what are the consequences of you actually making a right hire or a wrong hire? So what's the impact on you if you get the right person? What's it going to do to the business? What's it going to do to your department, your team, and how you're going to feel that way? Or what are the consequences if you get it wrong? So what's the fear of failure? Now again, people don't like to look at that, but you need to address both those issues. So again, we're starting to show the client. And they're going to say, well, why is that important to you? And then you're going to be able to sort of counter that when you get to the stage of the meeting where you're going to talk about your proposition. You're going to say, what benefits you bring to the table and so on. But you also should ask the client other questions. Do you have any internal candidates? And if not, why not? Is it an organisation which has a culture for fostering people's development? It may not be. It'll tell you something about the organisation. And it's a really important question to ask as a recruiter, because sometimes the struggle that organisations face when handling internal candidates is, how do they let the internal candidate down gently and still retain them? Because quite often we've seen this in organisations, sometimes they feel compelled to promote the internal employee because they've got no way to reject them. Well, one of the ways they can reject them and keep them in the organisation is actually to put them into an external process and benchmark them. And we'd always say that, bring them into your recruitment process, and if they're the right person for the job, assuming you assess them using multiple layers of scientific and objective assessment so they can actually be benchmarked against the market, then if they get the job, they've got the job because they're the best person. If they don't get the job, at least they've given a fair crack at the whip. And so there's more chance that internal candidate will stay with you as an organisation. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get you to show the client that you're thoughtful, you're considerate, and you're trying to position yourself head and shoulders above the transactional recruiter who's just really there to pick up a job description and go off and search a database. We're really there to show them that we're part of the professional services world, not from the transactional, supplier relationship type of world. We're really looking to build long-term relationships because that's what we believe in. And essentially, you can position yourself in the marketplace as a management consultant who specialises in talent acquisition in your chosen sector. And the client will start to see you differently. Now that leads to a whole new world of being able to do different things. It means you're going to go out there to the market, be perceived differently, be able to charge higher fees because you deliver a different type of service. Here at Intro, we work with hundreds of recruiters, and these are the types of topics that we share with them and help them explore about how they can make a difference in their business. If you'd like to spend some time with us, please click on the link below and book a consultation with me or one of my colleagues, and we'll share with you some of these thoughts to see whether we can work together going forward. Every Tuesday, we release some new videos, so please watch out for next week's instalment, but we look forward to speaking to you really soon, and thanks very much for watching today.